so much, Deborah. Folks, I am feeling so much joy being with you here right now. I didn't know how bad I needed this over the last several years. Do you feel the same way? And all this joy I got going on right now has me wondering a question, which is if we were to survey like 1,000 kids at random and ask them to describe math in one word, how far down the list would you have to go to hit joy as an adjective? Moreover, if you went outside the doors here and grabbed 100 people, or just kept on surveying people, asked them to describe mathematics, how many people out there would use joy to describe math? And even still, like math teaching itself is a profession that struggles for joy sometimes. And for all those reasons, I'm so excited to introduce to you folks Kanchan Kant, who embodies joy in mathematics more than just about anybody I've ever met. Joy to her students in Massachusetts as a math teacher, joy to her colleagues as a department head, and also joy in various equity initiatives she's a part of in Massachusetts more broadly. I'm just so thrilled to have an infusion of joy for all of us here today. Please join me in welcoming up Kanchan Kant.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming to ShadowCon and supporting us today. It is a Guinness World Record at this point, and NCTM can take it. It's been 3 years. You will never find people more prepared for this talk ever. So, all right, here I go. So, my name is Kanchan Kant, and I was about to say I'm a mathematician, but I'm a mather. I'm a mather, I'm an engineer, and I'm an educator aspiring to engage all students with the beauty of math. So today I would like to invite all of you to join me on this journey. So as classroom educators, what are questions we all hear whenever we introduce a new topic? Anyone? These are my top 3. Why do we need this? When are we going to use this? Where the heck do you expect me to use this? So, and I don't blame the students, I don't fault them. I used to ask the same questions. When I was in high school, my education was very traditional, very formula-based. We had worksheets and sit in rows and all of those things. So students are not to blame at this point. But every time they asked me these questions, I noticed I was answering them with real-world applications, and that's it. And then, whether it was something as simple as using probability to figure out which number is most likely if you're playing a game with 2 die, or that could be using calculus in quantum physics. Anything which I answer, sometimes that was satisfactory and sometimes not so much. Sometimes it was of no interest to that student or not appropriate for that grade level. And then there came a time when my students asked me, you will not believe this, why do we learn complex numbers? And in the moment, I could not come up with a relatable, practical application for a sophomore class. So this is what I want you to do. Turn to the person on your right. For 30 seconds, talk about, has this ever happened to you? What topic was it? What did you do? Okay, coming back together in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. You guys are such good students. Now, I want to take you into my math sophomore classroom, where we explored the reason for learning complex numbers. So I started the lesson by asking my students why we need natural numbers, and why, as humans, we started using them. Then we went on an exploration of invention and discovery of actually numbers, especially 0, around the world. That led to an amazing conversation about the advancement of human race and our evolving needs. Now, through this whole lesson, my students figured out that there came a point in our evolution that humans had all the numbers that they needed for counting. So they started using numbers for making shapes and constructing buildings. That is when they came up with irrational numbers. My students came up to me and they were like, do you know what, Ms. Kant? At the same time when this was happening, halfway around the world in Iran, Al-Khwarizmi was writing a book, Kitab al-Jabr, to teach the world about algebra. I was like, wow. So we had this most insightful and joyful conversation about the need of math for survival and need of math for exploration and discovery. That's when I introduced the concept of complex numbers as a way for humans to explore equations which do not have real solutions. That was the first time not even one of my students asked me why we are learning this. They were engaged, they were understanding the concept, their reflection was super positive, and it marked an important milestone for our learning community as a turning point because we understood the importance of learning mathematics. That was the day my students finally realized that they are creators of math and not just receivers or doers. And once they became these explorers through these exercises, they wanted to make meaning of math. And the way to find that joy was to connect different concepts and aspects of mathematics. As an example, they connected geometry and algebra to figure out characteristics of a triangle. They used the box method to make meaning of polynomials. And when they were doing this, they were much more engaged, not just with each other, but also with the content. Most importantly, they were connecting different aspects of math and driving their own learning. And one of the highlights of my year is to use math online visualizer tools to have students play with math. And the way I do that usually is teach algebraic functions where they explore it using these tools like GeoGebra and Desmos, and we culminate the unit in a final assessment using the Desmos art project. Thank you, Desmos. So students plot these functions on Desmos, and then they play with its domain, range, and inequalities to create a piece of art which represents a significant aspect of their identity. Now, I would like to read out a reflection from one of my students who made this piece of art that you see on the screen. The project that truly helped me see a bridge between art and math was our Desmos art project. Once we looked at the various examples of what it is possible to accomplish with a series of functions with imposed restrictions, I was in awe of how beautiful equations could be. Over the next month or so, as I pushed myself to write equations to create a detailed humpback whale, I felt a shift in my thinking. As I looked at the world around me, I caught my brain subconsciously trying to figure out how to translate an organic shape, for example, a tree branch, with a series of equations. Not unlike my thought process when trying to draw something, I would think, if I were to graph this, I would use a quadratic here, then a cubic there, and then a radical one for this one over here. This part's kind of rough, so I'm going to use several straight lines to recreate it. It was pretty incredible. I could literally feel my brain rewiring itself. Projects like these, my students were learning to play with math, but they were also learning to create beauty with math and see how everything is connected. And beauty with math is not just created. It can be found in nature, in abstraction, in architecture, and for someone, even in the ups and downs of the stock market. Recognizing that math is the universal language which connects everything, showcases its innate beauty of how things are connected. And it is a way for us to engage our students, irrespective of their background, their interests, their skills, or their grades. For a high schooler, that could be, oh, let me figure out how to get to school fastest. I'm going to do a traffic data analysis. For a for an elementary school student, that could be, let's say, let me find flowers which petals open up into the golden ratio spiral. Ultimately, the objective is to create in students a love for math. Because if we let students explore, express, and discover themselves with math, they develop a love for the subject which transcends content and grades. To that end, I would like to share one final story with you from my school. So our juniors were tasked to show the freshmen around the school. They decided to do that with, hello, a math treasure hunt. They use the murals around the room, around the school, to create clues which would tell the students, oh, this is where you need to go next. So as an example, they asked the freshmen to calculate the slope between these two murals, which were on two ends of a staircase, and that would give them the room number to the nurse's office, where they would get their next clue. This project was entirely conceptualized and executed by the students. I had no role to play, which showed me their love and excitement for the subject, and also their enthusiasm for sharing it with the rest of the school community. For freshmen, it was such a fun way to learn about the school culture, reduce their anxiety, and most importantly, ignited in them a spark for love of the subject. So this is what I'd usually do in my classroom. I ask students to reflect on their learning for the day so that they can make it their own. They can make meaning of their learning. I would like to ask all of you to do the same. Take a moment. Think about everything that you heard today in my talk or some other talk, and then one or more things that you would like to take back with you. Here are a few ways that I thought of to find joy in teaching math and learning math, so that we can engage all our students, not just in the uncountable applications of math, but also with its explorations, its connectedness, its meaning, its playfulness, its beauty, so that we can instill in them a love for the subject which is authentic, which is genuine, and which carries on with them after high school as well. Thank you. Class dismissed.